Let's talk about Tailwind CSS. It's been a pretty controversial topic since its initial release, and it's not hard to find comments online talking about the negatives of the project. But maybe some of these issues can be sorted out by using some best practices. Now, I don't want to come off as if I'm trying to convince you to use Tailwind, but I do think that some of the hate that it gets is a little unjustified. And I will say for myself, after using Tailwind in a bunch of different projects over the last 2 years, going back to writing just regular CSS feels less productive. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into it. So if you don't know, Tailwind CSS is a utility-first CSS framework. What that means is that unlike frameworks like Bootstrap or Zerb's Foundation, you don't use CSS classes that contain an entire pre-built component. You instead use classes more directly related to the CSS properties that you want to style against. So for instance, if you wanted to use padding on an element, you would use the p prefix of a class and then a number to designate how much padding you wanted on all of it, different sides, just the top, etc. Same thing goes for margin. You can also set the particular width, the height, different font sizes and families, text alignment and color, backgrounds, borders, effects, filters, you name it. Basically, any CSS property that exists, there is a class in Tailwind for you to use it. So let's actually go ahead and see some examples of this in action. Okay, so we have some HTML markup here. Now let's say that I wanted like a form in the middle here that's centered on the page with a white background, rounded corners, and a little bit of a shadow. What I can do is I can create that form element and give it a class of BG white, rounded. We'll do rounded large, shadow large. We'll do a max width of extra large and then MX auto so that the margin on both the left and the right is set to auto. Now let's go ahead and add an input in here just so we can see if our work is paying off and take a look at this in the browser. Okay, we're getting somewhere, but there's no room in the top, so let's go ahead and fix that now. In the wrapper div for it, we can set class to py24, so there's a decent padding between the top and the bottom of this wrapper class that it has. So that's a little bit better, but it blends into the background. So let's give the body class a background of a light gray color. So let's do BG gray 100. Nope, not dark enough. 200? That's better. Okay, so we have our input here, but there's no padding around the form itself. So let's go ahead and fix that up as well. So at the end of the form class, we can set padding. Let's do padding top and bottom to 3. Padding to the sides is 4. So that looks a little bit better, but I think the form is too long left and right. So we'll set that max width instead of extra large to a medium. Okay, and the text box now needs to be styled up, so let's go ahead and do that next. So input type text, class is equal to width full, so we have a full width. The border needs to be, let's do a medium gray color, so let's do border gray 500, and we'll round this out a little bit as well. Okay, the border is still kind of dark, so let's set that border gray instead to 200. Maybe not dark enough, 300? Okay, that looks perfect. Okay, and that's looking good. And you can see that this was all done in real time. I didn't do any cuts or edits with this part of the video. What Tailwind allows us to do is rapidly prototype in the markup that we're working with. We don't have to context switch between two separate files. If I was doing this in manual CSS, I'd have to go into my app CSS file, add in my form element, add in the styles that I wanted to here, go back and make sure that it was all right, then go back into my markup, add in a new class here, so form input, work on these styles as well, make sure this looks fine, add in our wrapper div, work on these styles, all the while going back to the browser, making sure that it looks as expected. So yeah, it's not a whole lot of work removed, but for someone like me who doesn't work well with context switching between two files, especially during the rapid development phase of an application, this just makes everything so much easier. The fact that I can style what I'm working with in the markup that is used to build it. So let's go ahead and expand on this a little bit more and add some more elements that are styled for our form. All right, so I got this form scaffolded out, and we have 3 inputs, each with a label and a style change whenever they're focused on. We also have a button down here that has a style change whenever it's hovered over. If we take a look at the markup for this, we can see the first problem that people usually have when it comes to Tailwind, and that is the large amount of class names. So you can see for our inputs especially, we have a ton of class names that cause a lot of horizontal scrolling and overflows our editor pretty easily. So what do we do to remedy that? Well, that's the first best practice we're going to talk about, and that is refactoring your code into reusable components. So when you're using Tailwind, if you come across an element that you're using a lot of repetitive and long class names for, the best practice is to take that element and create a reusable component out of it. So let's go ahead and do that with this markup. So I've created this input component here that has our wrapper div as well as our label and input elements with their full class list, and some additional attributes in here for when we use it as a component so we can have some functionality flexibility. Now back in the actual implementation, we have reduced that code down to just 3 lines, each one with a single class though, to give it some additional styling. We can also go ahead and refactor out this button element as well. And so now we just have a single button component that is rendering out the full element with the class list that we had before. So we still have these long class lists, they're not going away, but they have been refactored out and hidden inside of these individual components, which makes it easier to kind of understand your code base because the implementation is cleaner and the actual markup behind it is smaller and more atomic and easier to digest. And that's why Tailwind really shines with front-end frameworks. Not necessarily JavaScript front-end frameworks, it doesn't have to be React, Vue, or Svelte, but any framework that allows you to create reusable components for your front-end architecture. So for instance, in the code that we just saw, I'm using Laravel and its Blade templating engine that allows me to create reusable components without the use of JavaScript. Now, if you are adamant about using Tailwind without a front-end framework, you can create your own CSS components by using the apply directive. So if instead of using this button component here, I just added a button with the class of button, and then if I open up our app CSS file, I could create that button class and then use the apply directive and pass in every Tailwind class that was in our list for the original button component. So by doing this and going back to our front end, we can see the button still exists, but the problem is at this point, you're basically just writing CSS with extra steps. So in all honesty, this is why I don't recommend you use Tailwind if you are not a fan of having long class names in your markup and don't have a front-end templating engine or framework to refactor those out into reusable components. And with that, we move into another positive, which is Tailwind forces consistency. It's a standardized library, which means that it's useful for large teams that don't have to set aside effort to create their own style guide. As we saw when we were creating this button component, we have a list of different colors and styles to choose from. Not everything is boiled down to the most atomic level of CSS. So for instance, if I wanted to change this background color of the button to something that's like a red color, we have a selection of choices to choose from, and this is standardized across the entire Tailwind library. So Tailwind has its own color style guide that is pretty expansive, but also in itself limiting. You don't have millions of colors to choose from, you just have a select few dozen. And this is the same across basically any of these styles as well. You don't have every pixel of a margin to choose, you have these select defaults provided for you. There are a lot of them, but especially as we get into larger numbers, they are fewer and further between. So you can be sure that whenever your team is developing components or websites themselves, it's easy for you all to follow the same style guide as opposed to if you're writing CSS from scratch. However, this does lead to another problem, and that is the bootstrap effect. What I mean by that is that after working with Tailwind for a while, you can kind of see when sites are using it. So all of these sites are using Tailwind to style their front end, and you can kind of see a very similar pattern going between these in the way that their elements are laid out and the way that their breakpoints and containers are set up. It's not as drastic as Bootstrap was, but it kind of hits the mark as these look a little too similar. So that leads us into our next best practice, and that is to use a configuration to customize the defaults. So when you are using Tailwind CSS, you are provided a configuration file that usually lies at the root of your application. Specifically, the theme object and the extend object underneath of that allows you to modify the defaults that are provided by Tailwind. So in my application, we're adding on an additional font family to the sans fonts that are provided by Tailwind. And if we wanted to, we can make even more adjustments to this. For instance, let's say that my company has a primary color that isn't in the palette that Tailwind provides. So if we wanted to add a color that doesn't exist, we can, under this extend object, add a colors object, and then provide it a name like primary, and then a hex value associated with that particular color. So let's go with this bright blue that I have here. Now, if we go back into our markup, we can use that class in any of the color classes associated with Tailwind. So we can say BG primary. And then back on the front end, we can see our color being used down here. We could also replace all of the colors that Tailwind has by default by using that same object in the main themes object. But if we added that primary color here, it removes all of the other color classes, and so they are invalidated in our front end. We can also modify and extend other type of classes like the spacing. So if we wanted to add a more ridiculous margin, we could add in a custom spacing class and then use that as well for each of the margin or padding classes. So yeah, adding in different configuration can really help separate your individual application or site from the rest of the ones that use Tailwind, while still being able to use the base styles that it provides. Let's go back into the application and talk about plugins. If we take a look at the config file we were talking about earlier, toward the bottom we have a plugins array that contains just a forms object right now. And this is where you can add third or first party plugins that expand on the functionality Tailwind provides, just like what we did above, but on a bigger scale. So for instance, this forms plugin gives us some default stylings for forms. Tailwind also has this typography plugin that we can add as well, which gives us a default styling set for things like blog articles and large pages of content. So if I added a new div and gave it the class of prose and then added in a bunch of content here that has different stylings you would see on an article or a blog post, we can use these plain H1, H2, and P tags, but back in the front end, everything is styled really nicely, just thanks to the prose class that was added in with the typography plugin. And it doesn't have to be just added defaults or styles to Tailwind. There also exist plugins to add whole UI kits as well. One of the more famous ones is Daisy UI, and we can install with npm and then require it in our Tailwind config file underneath the plugins array, like we have down here. And then what it provides for us is a bunch of reusable component classes that are pre-styled that we can use in our application. So like we saw earlier how we refactored out our button into a button component, this allows us to use a button class that is provided to us, but be able to modify it with additional utility classes or by the classes provided by Tailwind itself. This brings us to another negative that I hear about Tailwind a lot is with all of these classes and all of these styles, and especially the plugins that we just added in here, isn't the final CSS added into your site really large? And that can be the case. If you were to use Tailwind CSS without a build process, the file size is something like 3 to 4 megabytes. That is a massive amount of CSS being added into your site that it doesn't need. However, if you're using Tailwind CSS with a front-end framework or really any modern app framework, chances are you're using it with a build process like I am with Vite. So everything that I've been working on in this video was using this Vite hot reload server to load and bundle everything up. Let's see how big that file size is now. So back in the browser, let's go ahead and open up our DevTools in the Network tab and refresh this page. So we can see that our app CSS file is about 54 kilobytes. Not huge, but also not that small. That's a decent amount of space being sent over the wire. But the good thing is that this is a dev environment. I'm doing this all locally, so none of this is really bundled up or compressed. Let's see what happens if we build these assets for production. Now, using the config file that we have and using Tailwind version 3, everything is minified by default. We should be getting a final CSS file that only uses classes that exist in the markup of our files. And sure enough, here we have a versioned app CSS file that is 42 kilobytes uncompressed, which is pretty good, but gzipped down, we have less than 10 kilobytes being sent over the wire in a production environment. Now, I will say if you wrote this CSS out manually, chances are you will shave off some more kilobytes. That's just the nature of writing things out manually by hand. You have to weigh if that is worth it for you to do instead of using a pre-built library like Tailwind. And so I think that's where we're going to leave it. There's a lot of discussion about Tailwind, and I see mostly extremes from both sides of the spectrum. I suggest that instead of listening to those who believe you should use it for every project you come across, and those who believe that you should avoid it like the plague, you should try it out for yourself and maybe a side project or two and form your own opinion on it. If you hate it, you can happily avoid it. Or if you're like me, it makes your development time faster, allows for less context switching, gives you a predefined set of styles to choose from, and you truly enjoy building applications with it. Both of those options are totally valid and cool. In the world of dev tools, and especially frameworks and libraries, it's all subjective. Whatever gets the job done and gives you as little headache as possible is the best tool for the job. So yeah, that's my take on Tailwind. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any ideas or topics you'd like to see me cover, please let me know in the comments below or in the link that you can find in the description. Thanks for watching.